Okay, so we got Deepseek R1 explained by a retired Microsoft engineer from Dave's Garage. Okay, what is going on with Deepseek?
Hey, I'm Dave. Welcome to my shop. I'm Dave Plummer, a retired software engineer from Microsoft going back to the MS-DOS and Windows 95 days. And today
Sheesh.
we're tackling a seismic shift in the world of technology, the release of China's open source AI model, Deepseek R1.
Ooh, I didn't know it was open source. Ooh, I did not know it was open source.
This development has been described as nothing less than a Sputnik moment by Mark Andreessen, and for good reason.
Hmm.
Just as the launch of Sputnik challenged assumptions about American technological dominance in the 20th century, Deepseek R1 is forcing a reckoning in the 21st. For years, many believed that the race for AI supremacy was firmly in the hands of the established players like OpenAI and Anthropic.
Hmm.
But with this breakthrough, a new competitor has not just entered the field, they've also seriously outpaced expectations. If you care about the future of AI innovation and global technological competition, you'll want to understand what DeepSeek R1 is, why it matters, whether it's just a giant psyop, and what it means for the world at large.
Oh
Let's
shit.
dive in. To set the stage, here's the part that really upset the industry and sent the stocks of companies like Nvidia and Microsoft reeling. Not
Okay.
only does DeepSeek R1 meet or exceed the performance of the best American AI models like OpenAI's O1,
Hmm.
they did it on the cheap, reportedly for under $6 million. dollars.
Yeah, that's what I
When you
heard.
compare that to the tens of billions already invested, if not more, here to achieve similar results, not to mention the $500 billion discussion around Stargate, it's
Oh yeah, the Stargate thing. It's like some sort. It's supposed to be like some sort of like healthcare AI based in like Austin, Texas, and the purpose of it is to like have some sort of like unified healthcare system. And like, what was one of the examples the guys used? They're like, hey, if it's supposed to be like a little AI assistant to help doctors diagnose, like just like a little assistant for doctors or whatever. And then I don't know if it was Stargate or something else, but they were saying like, if you have some form of cancer, we're gonna be able to make like a customized vaccine to be able to help with it, or I don't know if they said cure it or whatever, but like we're gonna be able to make a customized vaccine for you, and we're gonna be able to like make it in like 2 days. I think that's the example they used or something like that. I don't know if like how they're gonna be able to do that or whatever, but we'll see.
cause for alarm. Because not only does China claim to have done it cheaply, but they purportedly did it without access to the latest of NVIDIA's chips. If true, it's akin to
Ooh,
building a Ferrari in your garage out of spare Chevy parts.
yeah.
And if you can throw together a Ferrari in your shop on your own and it's really just as good as a regular Ferrari, what do you think that does to Ferrari prices?
Ooh, I mean, shit. If Tony Stark can build this thing in a cave with scraps, I mean,
So it's a little bit like that. And just what is DeepSeek R1? It's a new language model designed to offer performance that punches above its weight. Trained on a smaller scale, but still capable of answering questions, generating text, and understanding context. And what sets it apart isn't just the capabilities, but the way that it's been built. DeepSeek is designed to be cheap, efficient, and surprisingly resourceful, leveraging larger foundational AIs like OpenAI's GPT-4 or Meta's Llama as scaffolding to create something much larger.
yeah.
Let's unpack that. Because at its core, DeepSeek R1 is a distilled language model.
Ooh,
When you train a large AI model, you end up with something massive, hundreds of billions, if not a trillion parameters, consuming terabytes of data and requiring a data center's worth of GPUs just to function. But what if you don't need all that power for most tasks? And that's where the idea of distillation comes in. You
ooh,
take a larger model like a GPT-4 or the 671 billion parameter behemoth R1 and you use it to train the smaller ones. It's like a master craftsman teaching an apprentice. You don't need the apprentice to know everything, just enough to do the actual job really well.
okay.
DeepSeek R1 takes this approach to an extreme. By using larger models to guide its training, DeepSeek's creators have managed to compress the knowledge and reasoning capabilities of much bigger systems into something far smaller and more lightweight. The result? A model that doesn't need massive data centers to operate. You can run these smaller variants on a decent consumer grade CPU or even a beefy laptop, and that's a game
Huh.
changer. But how does this work? Well, it's a bit like teaching by example. Let's say you have a large model that knows everything about astrophysics, Shakespeare, and Python coding. And instead of trying to replicate that raw computational power, Deepseek R1 is trained to mimic the outputs of the larger model for a wide range of questions and scenarios. By
Okay.
carefully selecting examples and iterating over the training process, you can teach the smaller model to produce similar answers without needing to store all that raw information itself. It's kind of like copying the answers without the entire library. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because DeepSeek didn't just rely on a single large model for the process. It used multiple AIs, including some open source ones like Meta's Llama, to provide diverse perspectives and solutions.
I didn't even know Meta had an AI. Like, is it supposed to try Llama on Meta? Is this something you have to download? Or just log in? Log in with... No. You can't just log in with Google. Whatever. Well, it's about the same layout as like GPT or DeepSeek. Okay.
During the training. Thinking of it as assembling like a panel of experts to train one exceptionally bright student. By combining insights from different architectures and data sets, DeepSeek R1 achieves a level of robustness and adaptability that's rare in such a small model. It's too early to draw very many conclusions, but the open source nature of the model means that any biases or filters built into the model should be discoverable in the publicly available weights.
Oh yeah, I could think of one. So let me see. Like, I go to... Okay, so we got ChatGPT. And then verifying I'm a human. Okay, so now we'll stick this right here. Okay. So on ChatGPT, is Taiwan a country? Oh, it functions as a sovereign entity with its own government. Oh, okay. Let me see what DeepSeek has to say. Sorry, I'm not sure how to approach this type of question yet. Let's chat about math, coding, or logical problems instead. What a great AI, DeepSeek. What a great AI.
Which is a fancy way of saying that it's hard to hide that stuff when the model is open source.
Yep.
In fact, one of my first tests was to ask DeepSeek what famous photo depicts a man standing in front of a line of tanks.
Oh, yeah.
It correctly answered the Tiananmen Square protests, the significance of the photo, who took it, and even the censorship issues surrounding it. Of course, the online version of DeepSeek may be completely different because I'm running it offline locally.
Yeah.
And who knows what version they get within China, but the public version that you can download seems solid and reliable. So why does all this matter? Well, for one, it dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for AI. Instead of requiring massive infrastructure and your own nuclear power plant to deploy a large language model, you could potentially get by with a much smaller setup. That's good news for smaller companies, research labs, or even hobbyists looking to experiment with AI without breaking the bank. In fact, I'm running it on our AMD Threadripper that's equipped with an NVIDIA RTX 6000 ADA GPU that has 48 gigabytes of VRAM. And I
Dang.
can run the very largest 671 billion parameter model, and it still generates more than 4 tokens per second. And even
I don't even know what that is. I didn't even know that's a stat. Tokens per second? What the heck is that?
the 32 billion version runs nicely on my MacBook Pro, and the smaller ones run down to the Aura Nano for $249. But there's a catch. Building something on the cheap has some risks. For starters, smaller models often struggle with the breadth and depth of knowledge that the larger ones have. They're more prone to hallucinations, generating confident but incorrect responses sometimes, and they might not be as good at handling highly specialized or nuanced queries. Additionally, because these smaller models rely on training data from the larger ones, they're only as good as their teachers. So if there are errors or biases in the large models that they train on, those issues can trickle down into the smaller ones. And then there's the issue of scaling. DeepSeek's efficiency is impressive, but it also highlights the trade-offs involved. By focusing on cost and accessibility, DeepSeek R1 might not compete directly with the biggest players in terms of cutting-edge capabilities. Instead, it carves out an important niche for itself as a practical, cost-effective alternative. In some ways, this
So it's what is it? It's like Timu AI. Is that what it is? It's like great value AI.
This approach reminds me a bit of the early days of personal computing. Back then, you had massive mainframes dominating the industry, and then along came these scrappy little PCs that couldn't quite do everything but were good enough for a lot of the work.
Okay.
Fast forward a few decades, and the PC revolutionized computing. Deepseek might not be GPT-5, but it could pave the way for a more democratized AI landscape where advanced tools aren't confined to a handful of tech giants. The
Ah.
implications here are huge. Imagine AI models tailored to specific industries, running on local hardware for privacy and control, or even embedded in devices like smartphones and smart home hubs. The idea of having your own personal AI assistant, one that doesn't rely on a massive cloud backend, suddenly feels a lot more attainable.
I mean, yeah, like, but like, I'm not over here spending money on GPT 3.5, and I'm not subscribed to 4, so I just like casually use that thing. So like, what Elon Musk was trying to peddle that dopey little robot that for like super, it's gonna be super affordable, guys. For what? Like, what did he say? Like 30K for that little stand up robot that's gonna be able to like walk around and do stuff for you. And I assume it comes with some sort of AI or some version of Grok inside it. So like, I don't like past like an app on your phone or something that you could just boot up on your computer. I find it really hard to like see the usefulness of it.
Of course, the road ahead isn't without its challenges. DeepSeek and models like it must prove that they can handle real world tasks reliably, scale effectively, and continue to innovate in a space dominated, so far, by much larger competitors. But if there's one thing we've learned from the history of technology, it's that innovation doesn't always come from the biggest players. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective and a
Hmm.
willingness, or sometimes a necessity, to do things differently. DeepSeek R1 signals that China is not just a participant in the global AI race, but a formidable competitor capable of producing cutting edge open source models.
Yeah, good. It'll light a fire under America's ass to do something better, faster, stronger. Yeah.
For American AI companies like OpenAI, Google, DeepMind, and Anthropic, this creates a dual challenge: maintaining technological leadership and justifying the price premium in the face of increasingly capable, cost effective alternatives.
Oh, that's a good point. But wait. So what is the goal? Because like, can't you just subscribe to like GPT-4 already for like $20 a month? I mean, and like I don't know about any of those other AIs or anything like that, and I don't know if you like you can subscribe to them. But if we look at like non-AI subscription services and we see the trend, it's only going to go up because that's been the trend of like movie streaming services. The trend is like, oh, this year we gotta increase the price by $3, gotta increase the price by $5, so on and so forth. So if that's the trend in movies or just shows and streaming media, it would probably stand to reason that it's probably going to be the same type of subscription service for AI stuff.
So, what are the implications for American AI? Well, open source models like DeepSeek R1 allow developers worldwide to innovate at lower cost. This could undermine the competitive advantage of proprietary models, particularly in areas like research and small to medium enterprise adoption. US companies that rely heavily on subscription or API based revenue could feel the squeeze, potentially dampening investor enthusiasm. The release of DeepSeek R1 as open source software also democratizes access to powerful AI capabilities.
Hmm.
Companies and governments around the world can build upon its foundation without the licensing fears or the restrictions imposed by US firms. This could accelerate AI adoption globally but reduce demand for US developed models, impacting revenue streams for firms like OpenAI and Google Cloud. In the stock market, companies heavily reliant on AI licensing, cloud infrastructure, NVIDIA's chips, or API integrations could face downward pressure as investors factor in lower projected growth or increased competition.
Hmm.
Now, in the intro, I made a little side reference to the potential of this PSYOP angle, and while I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist
The whole psyop thing, yeah.
myself, some have argued that perhaps we should not take the Chinese at their word when it comes to how the model was produced. If it really was produced
Oh yeah, like all I hear is like, oh, they somehow got a hold of like Chat GPT, and then from it they just like tweaked it a little bit, and then just changed the name to Deepseek.
Based on second tier hardware for just a few $1 million is major. But some argue that perhaps China invested heavily at the state level to assist, hoping to upset the status quo in America by making what is supposed to be very hard look supposedly cheap and easy. But only time will tell. So that's DeepSeek R1 in a nutshell. A
Mm-hmm.
scrappy little AI punching above its weight, built using clever techniques and designed to make advanced AI accessible to more people than ever before.
I mean, but couldn't you do about the same thing with DeepSeek that you could with GPT 3.5? Like, understandably, uh, like the difference between 3 and 4 is like pretty big, and if you want to subscribe, you can get like a larger database or whatever. You can do that, but it's like for the most part, like 3.5 was like pretty good. No.
It's not perfect, it's not trying to be, but it's a fascinating glimpse into what the future of AI might look like. Lightweight, efficient, and a little rough around the edges, but full of potential. Now, if you found this little explainer on DeepSeek to be any combination of informative or entertaining, remember that I'm mostly in this for the subs and likes, so I'd be honored if you consider subscribing to my channel to get more like it. And there's also a share button down in the bottom here, so somewhere in your toolbar there'll be a forward icon which you can use to click on to send this to somebody else that you think probably wants to be educated and just doesn't know about this channel. So if you want to tell them about Deepseek R1, send them a link to this video. If you have any interest in matters related to the autism spectrum, check out the free sample of my book on Amazon. It's everything I know now about
Oh,
living your best life on the spectrum that I wish I'd known long ago. In the meantime and in between time, hope to see you next time, right here in Dave's Garage.
Do it,
nice.
Glenn. Do it. Do it.
So what the heck is this outro? Oh my god. Um, yeah. Okay, so nobody knows if it's a psyop. It's like a lightweight, cheap version with almost the same capacity. So, like, if you're gonna compare it to like GPT, like, what would it be comparable to? Like, is it like GPT 3.75, or is it like GPT 4.0 or something like that? Like they both have um like this little like deep think and like use the web search button, but like neither of like I think this one's like down or like it doesn't search the web. But like this little deep think thing, it tells you like the reasoning, and like ChatGPT has that too. Um, I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, shit. This is all like new to me. I I use ChatGPT like sparingly for like just random ass shit. But here comes big boy China with their little $6 million like AI, and it's like about the same as ChatGPT. So I'm like, okay, here we go with the AI races. But no, thank you for explaining that, dude. That was awesome. And I'm a fan now for sure. But yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.